So I guess without the poster session presentations, we should wrap it up and just simply thank all of you for your participation. I have a bunch of prizes to give away. I'm not sure, Moran, do you have any creative ideas for how we give away prizes? Yeah, I mean, or we can take more questions from the audience and I can pull up some, okay, great, yeah, all right. Hey, Nelly, you should come back up and field some questions with me. Great, go ahead. We'll bring Nelly up. She'll come back up.
Cool.
She's on her way up.
Hi, Nelly. I don't know if Brittany's still here too, but Brittany had a really cool paper on the Alpha Compute website. And she was talking about the importance of data sovereignty in the era where people that own data and compute are essentially the power makers of the next century. So I was really curious, like a lot of us here today are like here because of enterprise use cases. Like a lot of us like sell or are part of enterprises that sell to other enterprises, like typically B2B. But like a lot of this like core foundational technology with confidential compute, I feel is incredibly important for consumers, and especially with like consumer privacy. So I guess like my question is, it's like, how do you ensure, like how do you incentivize like these companies that are consumer facing to adopt CC and like let go of their data moat? And like fundamentally there's like a monetization play that they want to utilize, but it's like, what is the incentive there to protect consumer privacy?
I'll take a crack at it, Nelly. And then you can add on. I mean, here's my thought is that it takes someone who perceives privacy as a differentiating capability for their products to lead the way. And we just saw one of those leaders. Was it today? I can't even keep track. Was it this morning?
Presentation.
I was like, was it yesterday?
No,
Yeah.
It was today.
Yeah, it was today.
Presentation for companies that absolutely build the whole brand on privacy.
Yeah.
And for them, I think it's very clear how to accomplish that, utilizing all capability, and confidential compute is one of them to accomplish that.
Yeah.
So privacy is differentiation.
And I've had a lot of folks approach me about, oh, well, I want to roll this into this consumer product. And my response has been historically like, great, you should go find somebody to help you do that. Because Opaque's focused on enterprise, because in the enterprise, you have the ability to bear the burden of where the current primitives are, which is, there's a significant lift getting this set up inside the enterprise. And in the enterprise, it's like, okay, well, we know what an enterprise deployment looks like of technology. That's quite different than what does that mean downstream for the consumer? Well, unless there's a demand for it from the consumer, they're unwilling to bear that burden of the initial deployment cost. So thankfully, we have a beacon, a signal coming from a brand that has bet their brand as a differentiating feature on privacy. And now what we can expect will happen is what you just said is like, well, that's going to be a signal to their competitors that it's table stakes that they need to step up as well.
And we will see it. No surprise. We will see it. It will come.
We've got multiple in the back.
Oh my God. Those guys.
And I'm not sure which one you were alluding to there, but we've had Apple talk about what they're doing for consumers. We've had...
Sorry, I should have said Apple. Sorry.
Yeah.
We specifically didn't mention Apple. Then you broke the secret.
I broke the secret. Just like I'm going to break the secret of last year with Meta and WhatsApp with their private processing. So I think we've got a couple really strong examples.
Great point, Meta, yeah.
I also got to speak to DigiCert for the first time today.
Wow.
And answer some of the questions they've had about the consortium. And that's a CA. And when you think about what is attestation, it seems sort of shocking that we don't have CAs directly involved. Can you imagine going to websites now and not just getting the HTTPS certificate, but you get an attestation so that you know that your privacy is enforced in that cloud server?
And it is why attested TLS is becoming so interesting, because TLS is built on certificate on PKI, being web PKI and enterprise PKI. Adding attestation to this channel is ability for us to tie attestation to all of those CA capabilities. So I'm really glad that DigiCert and other CA will help us to make attestation so easy and so broadly available.
Yeah, I'm intended to meet with DigiCert too, and they of course
We
came up
can
in a
introduce.
conversation.
We can introduce.
So by the way, everybody who's asking questions or making comments must come to the front of the stage at the end of this to receive a gift. And I think Mike,
You will be
Mike has a,
And on attested TLS, just another note, that's something that evolved out of the attestation SIG based on research that came from RATLS, the RATLS protocol that originally came out of Intel, but that got improved by the community, discussed in public, and progressed that way in the open.
who the hell is this guy? He seems so authoritative.
I think he deserves a prize.
Who are you, by the way?
I'm Dan Middleton.
Oh, okay, Dan. Sure, I know. By the way, if you guys don't, I have face blindness. I'm not joking. I will not recognize you.
I'm a long ways away, especially without glasses on.
No, they're reading glasses. You have to have like a very specific look for me to recognize you.
I'll work on that.
You have a very average look, Dan.
Okay.
Well, I get
Any
to learn
other
from
questions?
everybody at the technical community at the CCC.
I just had a question. I don't know if it dovetails on that or not, but it goes back to the agentic stuff. Like, do you see, or does this exist, that there's an actual like SLA then on like the actual on like agentic SLAs, I guess?
Yeah, so for sure, there's a lot of people who are doing kind of agent credentials or an SLA, as you put it. And I'll mention that as part of agent trust, that's what that agent manifest is the specific rules that govern this agent that gets then cryptographically enforced. And that's all was released as open source. And there's several other options like that. In fact, the agent trust, agent manifest one that we released is just building on Microsoft AGT open source. And it's, I would have to ask him on which specific, I think it's got an EAT in it, which is another emerging or standard around it. But yes, David, that's like a thing for sure. But it's new, it's like emerging, like this isn't like established. Correct. It's very much emerging. And then Linux Foundation also announced the agent namespace, which presumably would store the specific rules that govern the agent. I haven't read about it, but my assumption would be that even if it's a cryptographic identity, that cryptographic identity would be tied to a specific set of rules for that agent as part of the namespace.
Like, would that be something that would actually be standardized, or is that something that comes into play based on whoever's delivering that SLA?
You are literally like at the time where these standards are emerging. These are all very good questions.
Standards usually take significant amount of time.
Yeah.
So again, and as soon as we agree on the right approach, I think it will become de facto standards. And as soon as we implement it, standards will come.
Yeah, and the interesting part about this too is like all of these, the parts for this exist, right? There's a bunch of the parts that already exist out there, either as open source libraries or standards, and they're beginning to converge into a coherent story, but we're not quite there yet. Great question.
Mike.
I think you know I've got an accent and a look. First of all, I want to say thanks to Aaron and the team at Opaque and to Linux Foundation events and all the AV stuff.
Linux Foundation events.
Yay! A great job. And a couple of people have said to me, you know, where are we with CC? And as of this year, it's felt a bit different. It's felt that we've moved maybe away from talking to ourselves and talking to it's actually happening, which is just fantastic. And the question I've got really is, how can we let people know about the people that are using it? Because lots of people use CC, right? Apart from telling Nelly she has to publish all of her customers, which isn't going to happen. You know, how do we let other people know? Because that's what we need. We need to have people to know that other people are using it, and that will make all the difference. Any have any bright ideas? Aaron's run away with that question. Okay, that's fair enough. Nelly, what do you think?
The goal, I guess, to not publish the list of customers. None of the companies would be happy to do that. But the goal to maybe identify the most impactful use cases that those customers will be interested to talk about. So, for example, in Google, we have multiple case studies that we're publishing with customers that really okay for us to disclose the conversations and the usage of confidential compute as it's applicable to their business. So I think this is the way how we would be able to identify those customers. Is it willing to blog about that, willing to publish their case study, willing to share their experiences with everybody and with companies from their segment, from their industry as well. So it's the path.
Yeah, so Opaque brought a lot of customers here. So there's a lot of Opaque customers running around. I don't want to ever make it about Opaque since this is an ecosystem event. So we do bring customers. There were customers who spoke, Encore Capital being one of them. But notice, like, we don't encourage them to put Opaque all over their slides. We try to keep it more agnostic about the technology. I think that serves the Opaque and the broader ecosystem well. Thank you so much. But so you saw many Opaque customers on stage, and many of them you wouldn't even have known that they were Opaque customers because it's about us having a rising tide that secures the future for our children to have safe use of AI. But yeah, I mean, every single year there's been more and more customers of confidential systems on stage and talking about it. It's like you said, it's happening, it's happening. You know, I've only been at grinding at this for, by the way, I have temporal distortion. Like, I do not perceive time very well, probably because, like most of you out there, you just work a lot and you kind of lose track of time. So I think I've been at Opaque for 2.5 years now, October 2023, so about 2.5 years, I think. So I've only been grinding at this for 2.5 years. You all have been at this for like a decade. I mean, thank you very much because you put in the foundation for our future to be secure. So just in the last 2.5 years, it's been tremendous seeing major milestones occur. Like, gosh, before I joined Opaque, I was like, hey, this is like cool on analytics and ML, but guys, how do we do this on language models? And they're like, oh, hey, there's going to be these new GPUs. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And we can do this attestation stuff on what I thought were, I was like, there's going to be these services that are going to call other resources and tools. Now we call it agents, right? Before I even joined Opaque, I'm like, guys, there's going to be services that are really just language models that are going to call different data sources and tools. And we're going to need this graph level attestation to enforce governance. You know, now we're there. But there was all these major milestones beginning with like, oh, there's going to be confidential GPUs. Oh, they're available on the cloud. That was only September of 2024 that we even could have access to confidential GPUs on Azure and GCP. Then what were the other major milestones? Like off Apple Private Cloud Compute, their initial announcement was 2025. And then what was the next major milestone? OpenClaw. That was a big deal, everyone. When people are like, oh my God, this thing just hemorrhages data and you can't govern them. Like, oh, we have to do some kind of cryptographic enforcement. What was the next major milestone? I would say NVIDIA GTC with Jensen and his entire leadership team in every session talking about verifiable systems. Well, you know, clearly they were talking about Nelly's work with Apple. And he understood the significance and importance of that, but it was all over April GTC. And since then, in fact, Mythos was another major milestone where everybody woke up and said, oh my God, we've got to have these systems that are verifiable and confidential. And then I would argue that the next major milestone that was okay, we're there. We have escape velocity. We now are out of orbit. We have escape velocity, and that was Apple running the world's largest confidential AI across 2 billion devices. There's no longer a question of, is this a thing? It's obviously, this is where we have escape velocity. In fact, on June 8th, I had this moment. I walked out of my office in San Diego and I went for a walk and I was like, all right, we did it. We're there.
Congratulations. Congratulations to all of us.
To all of you. I'm a latecomer.
We did it.
Well, I guess unless there's, oh gosh, I'm sorry, Apostolos.
All right.
Where do you come from? What is your country of origin?
Greece. So
This is the
yeah,
third
this
time I've
joke
given
never
him a
gets
hard
old,
time
right?
about his name.
So
You're from Greece?
no way. So I wanted to see this from the perspective of us on the hardware side of things, right? So we build all these confidential computing features in our products, and we're very happy to finally see them taking shape and being adopted by the industry. And I've been attending this. This is the third time I've been on a confidential computing summit. By the way, congratulations to Opaque and the Linux Foundation, because every year it gets better. And yeah, Nelly.
And Nelly.
Absolutely. So the question is agentic AI and the necessity for post-quantum cryptography really going to be the inflection point where we see exponential adoption of confidential computing? And what can we do, the hardware guys, to accelerate this trend even more? Like, is this the time we've been dreaming every year? Like, yeah, it's going to happen. You know, we're getting there. Are we there yet?
When you're on the curve, it's hard to see the exponential, but I won't name names of partners who've told me that they have vertical growth, because it would be inappropriate for me. But every partner that would know, they have vertical growth. It's exponential on this.
And can I have my hardware wish? We need more of that. We're struggling with, again, capacity. Bring more hardware to us, because demand is growing exponentially, especially again CPU, GPU, and all other accelerators. As more we will have ability to bring it to the world globally without any performance and latency implication, we will be golden. We have demand. We have huge demand. We need capacity.
And you heard Mark talk about it yesterday, where he said one of the friction points for confidential is access to the hardware. And you heard also folks from UAE, like Naja was talking about some of the challenges she has, friction related to the hardware. By the way, we had folks from Kazakhstan here too. Similarly, they're like, hey, well, we need access to the hardware. So
thank you so much, and we need more of that.
cool. Great. Is there anybody else who would like to participate in the conversation? It doesn't necessarily need to be a question. Just, you have to end it with, do you agree? All right, well, thank you all. Oh, okay.
One more.
So we've heard several different messages that all kind of equate to this is our year. So we'll start with the assumption that that's true. This is our year, it's happening. You've mentioned the exponential curve, and it's hard to see it when we're on it. But we've also talked about things that could be like step functions, whether it's regulations arriving or moments of market demand through differentiated features, like with what we saw from Apple and that kind of growth, or whether it be a big data breach that leads to people being worried about legal liability. Like, what will be driving that step to make this ubiquitous? Like, what will be the thing that pushes us over the top?
I've got some opinions on it.
Go.
I think we've already seen several of them this year, right? I listed some of them, right? Like personal agents, people recognizing what happens with personal agents. When you have a company that's putting, I don't know, $500 billion behind their product roadmap, that they're pushing on, like NVIDIA, it's a pretty clear signal to the market. They're educating the market. They're also reacting to the demand from the market. And then, of course, when you've got one of, or perhaps the largest consumer electronics company on the planet who's fully adopted this, I mean, what more evidence do you need to see that's going to drive the adoption? Yeah, I mean, I think
all of the above is your answer.
Yeah, I mean, like,
You know, as an
I don't
excuse.
know that there.
It's all of the above.
It's all of the above.
definitely-
I mean, here's another thing I think we were talking about earlier today, which was when I first came to this space, my beginning of my career was around distributed systems, at Microsoft, and we were applying PyCalculus. So it was all about verifiable systems. I was like, oh, this is going to be amazing. We could use like hardware to create closure of compute and verifiable systems. And then very quickly I realized that the customers didn't really care about that. They were like, oh, well, look, I could just have like a confidential core around some of the key workflows running in CPUs. And then as long as I can get like policy enforcement that's provable there that I can share downstream with my internal auditors or my downstream customers, that's good enough, right? I was like, great, because that confidential GPU is such a pain in the ass, and I can't get them half the time. And you know, my cloud vendors only support like a single GPU. So what are we going to do with that? So I was like, that's great. We can just do confidential core. Since then, I've begun to see them saying, well, look, I want to connect some of these resources that you're attesting the communication channel, and I would like to get mutual attestation back from that resource. And now we've got some of the world's largest tech companies saying, we're going to do that with you. So you know, when I first started here, I was like, I told the team, I said, hey, there's going to be a point. We're going to start with this, but at some point in the future, there's going to be hyperscalers who are going to do mutual attestation with us and allow us to aggregate that up for our customers. And I'll tell you that they, on my team, were skeptical, and now we're actually seeing that. The other thing that I said was, hey, you're going to see a proliferation of like people using small language models that are going to be specialized, and they're going to want to run that in their own TEEs, and we'll be able to do it because it's just like a small language model. Maybe we can do it on the CPU, maybe we can do it with the GPU. We're now starting to see that too. So I think that I'll go back to what I said before, which is it's hard to see the exponential when you're on the curve, but we're already there. Like June 8th was the final point of evidence for me where I was like, all right, cool, we did it.
And good to know I have a look since you were able to connect to our conversation earlier.
Actually, I'm really good with voices, true story. You have a distinct voice.
And for me, to answer Key's question would be cheating because he's my Uber TL on confidential computing.
Yes, yes. It was a loaded question, I suspect. Cool. I guess we should all adjourn and go eat, drink, be merry, build the cool shit together that we can be proud of for future generations.
Thank you.
Thank you all for
everyone.
coming.
And see you next year.